All right, everyone, it's Captain Chris from Speckled Truth here with my buddy Terry Wagner, who's trying to fix a tripod, as you can see. But pretty cool treat. What we're gonna do is, he's got a pool in his new house, and we've got arsenal, and we got tackle, right? We got a lot of stuff. And so what we're gonna do today is really take a look at swim bait hooks, both weighted and unweighted, and we're gonna put them in the pool. And we got a myriad of different lures, from paddle tails to straight tails to jerk shads and everything else. And so we're really gonna take a look at the sink profile for a lot of these different baits. And so once he gets this thing rigged up, we're gonna get after it. First up is the Cajun Lures Zydeco shad on an 1/8 ounce. Got it? All right, two of my favorite, well, let me rephrase that. One of my favorites, and one I've actually need to develop a little bit more confidence in, but two pretty prominent lures on the, really across the coast. Well, one of my favorites, Gambler's 6-inch flapping shad. We have that rigged again on an unweighted and a weighted hook, as well as the Mirror Provoker. So this is a little bit bigger profile jerk shad style single tail. All right. All right, next up is the DOA Airhead, and then the trout support lure.
That color? Yep. With the weight on it. Weightless, maybe no down. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, we're on a little bit of a rain delay, so Shiner Bock it is. All right, so next up we got the Slayer Inc. SSTB, which is the twitch bait. And so this is a little 5-inch jerk shad, and then we have the traditional saltwater assassin jerk shad as well, saltwater shad. So let's take a look. All right, the next two that are up are the Slick Lure and the K-Wiggler Willowtail. So Slick Lure has obviously a little ball tail shad, almost a darter style, with the K-Wiggler Willowtail having more of like a gambler flapping shad where it's a little bit more elongated. So, all right, let's take a look. So next up is this is the Lake Fork Live Magic Shad. Never thrown it. Pretty interesting, pretty large profile. It's a 4.5 inch actually, but a really, really dense body. And then this is an AM Fishing made by some guys down in lower Texas, down in Harlingen. And this is their 5-inch, and it's like a little curly tail. So let's take a look and see what's going on. Ready? we're going to transition to the swim bait portion. And so, thinking about swim baits, again, baits traditional in nature, with a kicker style tail or a boot tail or a paddle tail, whatever you want to call it. But we got a couple of different lures, actually, that we want to use. And so we're going to take a look at and I'll go in order here. So actually we're going to take a look at the 6-inch Slayer Inc. SST XL, and so that's actually on the rod right now. But the next is we're going to look at the Kitech Easy Shiner. This is a 5-inch, it's kind of slender profile, nice little boot tail. Take a look at that. The next is the Yum Money Minnow. So again, another 5-inch bait, real kind of lifelike mullet style profile. Really pliable though, very soft plastic. The next is going to be some big bite baits. Let's see, this is their Swim and Jerk Minnow. I've actually caught a lot of fish on this in lower Texas. Nothing super fancy, obviously really slender profile, kind of like your traditional jerk shad with a little bitty kicker tail, similar to that of like a down south lure, but big bite baits. All right, next, down south lures. Actually, this is going to be the DSL Supermodel, and so it's just a larger profile, and it's obviously the much larger version of the DSL Southern Shad. Next is a very prominent bait and a freshwater side. I've started introducing that a little bit here, and that is the Optimum Baby Boom Boom. And so this is a little 5-inch swim bait, really thick. Also has kind of a split in the belly just for rigging it weedless. Let's see, 3 more. The next one is the smaller version of the Berkley Sickfish. And so as you can see, that much smaller version of the Berkley Sickfish. So we have that. And the last 2 is going to be the Strike King Rage Swimmer 5-inch. Actually, yeah, this is a 5-inch, I believe. Actually, a 4.75. Really big tail, really kind of bigger, bulkier profile, similar to that of a Kitech. And then the last one is going to be the Saltwater Assassin, and these are those sea shads, but this is kind of not the dyed apper, but the actual sea shad, excuse me. Say that 10 times fast. But nonetheless, that's by Saltwater Assassin. As you can see, very similar profile to that of your big bite baits.
Oh, hell yeah. That's got pretty good.
All right, well, we finally finished up all the different baits, the swim baits, the jerk baits, all the different styles of baits on swim bait hooks, the weighted swim bait hooks. And I know I talked about it a couple times, but we had 2 different styles, and that was, they were both owner 4-aught beast hooks, but one had the lead belly and the other one did not, right? And so we paired those up minus the swim baits with the boot style tail. We just threw those on a weighted style. But I wanted to talk a little bit about equipment before I get into kind of the pros and cons of the baits themselves. What we did is on a spin rod, Laguna Liquid. This is a 7-foot medium action, and again paired up with that Suffix 832 with the Shimano Nasi Reel 3000. For the bait cast rod, Laguna Light Texas Wader 2 with the Lew's Tournament MB. Again, Suffix 832, 6-pound diameter braid with that 20-pound Stren magnet thing. All right, so breaking down the baits and kind of what we saw. So if you could see right here, and I'll put down, so if you can see right there, we have the different style baits. And I won't go through all of them, but I'll really take a look at what I thought was good and what was bad, or maybe something that I really keyed in on for both the styles. So let's start with the actual jerk baits themselves. So without a doubt, I came into it already with a kind of preconceived notion for the Laguna Flat, or the Gambler Flapping Shad. I've caught a lot of big fish on this bait. Obviously, it's a very pliable bait. It's a freshwater bait, so the plastic's a little bit soft, but it doesn't hold up as well as you would want in salt water. But having said that, the action is, looking at the action, especially in a pool, you can definitely tell while it gets eaten. And so you can rig this. It looked good on all three. So it really looks good on a jig head, because I fished that almost exclusively with a jig head. But in those grassier situations, or I'm fishing a lot of flooded grass, I do throw this well, but it looks really good on both the weighted and unweighted. Now, comparably, I was actually really shocked. I haven't thrown this bait a tremendous amount, and that is the DOA Airhead. And as the footage shows, it's a similar profile, obviously, with the tail, but it's a lot more compact since it's an inch shorter than the Gambler Flap and Shad. What we found, though, is on the unweighted hook, it just didn't have the action that you would want. And so what happened is, when you paired it with the 1/8 ounce, it had a beautiful action. And so the action would, the tail would kick, and when you killed that bait, it had a really noticeable rock. And it was actually a pretty even descent. It was a little bit nose led, but for the most part, it stayed pretty horizontal. And so really great sink rate, really great sink profile. I'm really shocked, and that's gonna find its way into my tackle box. The other thing, similar, is that trout support lure. It's not a whole lot, doesn't look like a tremendous amount. Had almost zero action on an unweighted hook, but if you paired it with the 1/8 ounce lead belly, that's when it had, again, kind of a really noticeable action. Unlike this, the DOA Airhead, this one had a lot more side to side, and when you did kill it, it had a really noticeable action, similar to that of a slick lure. But this actually fishes, I think, a little bit better on an unweighted, but you still get kind of that similar rocking action, but on an unweighted hook. All right, with regards to the actual jerk shads themselves, like the actual true jerk shads, I would probably rate the worst, or the least performance, this is the Grande Bass Airtail. It's a 5-inch kind of jerk bait, and it's got a little pocket of air in its tail. And the thing is that it really just didn't have a whole lot of side-to-side action on both the unweighted as well as the weighted. And then not only that, since the air was up, it really sunk nose first a lot. And so I just didn't really care for that. I want more of kind of that horizontal descent. With regards to the other jerk baits, this is that Provoker. The Provoker had really nice side-to-side action, and it was actually pretty true. It wouldn't spin or anything like that. So on the descent, slightly nose-led, but almost more of a glide, it would come down, but it stayed true. No real rocking, it just stayed real true. The other ones were also all pretty even. This was the Cajun Zydeco Shad. It had a really, really nice side-to-side action. I really liked it, but on the same token, it wasn't so much so that it differentiated itself from the Slayer Inc. SSTV, the Twitch bait, or the Saltwater Assassin. I think this is the Jerk Shad or the Sea Shad or whatever it's called, as well as the L&L lures. These were all pretty similar. Now, they're all really good quality baits and they had great action, but in terms of if I gotta buy one of them, really you can pick all four and include it in your arsenal. I don't think you would actually go wrong either way. What I wouldn't add, though, would be this Grande Bass Airtail. That's my own personal opinion. All right, getting to the jerk baits. Oh, I'm sorry, to the swim baits. So again, a really, really big arsenal here. And so probably my favorite, I have to admit, is actually this Young Money Minnow. And so the 5-inch Young Money Minnow for me, in terms of the action itself, was tremendous. Not only if on a slow, steady, straight retrieve, it gave just so much action throughout the entire bait. And it would literally, like, from the top to the tail, would just almost quiver, and that tail would really, really kick. On the descent, though, it still had a little bit of that tail kick on the descent, and I really like that, and it's a big, big profile. So that would be probably my favorite swim bait. I think the most versatile, though, of all of these is actually probably almost two of them to some extent. And let me see if I can find it here real quick. Nope, nope, nope. There it is, right there. All right, so if you're fishing, actually, shoot, 3. I'll go with 3 here. Now I'm thinking about it, but this is the Down South Lures, the Supermodel bait, and this is a true bait. This bait's caught a lot of fish. It's on the Dirty 30. It's littering the Dirty 30 spreadsheet for all the entries, because a lot of people catch a lot of fish on this, especially here in Texas, a Texas made bait. But what it does is it actually has a really good little swimming action, but on the same token is as it descends, it does really well, and it has great side to side on a descent. Probably this this Kitech Easy Shiner. This is a 5-inch, and this one had really good action, very versatile, similar to that of the DSL. Everything I've just said about the DSL was the same. And then probably the last was that Big Bite Baits with regards to its action. I think both of these could really fish, or all of these baits minus the Young Money Minnow, you could fish on a jig head as well, but they would also work really well if you rig them weedless as well. All right, the last thing with regards to some other true swim baits that I was really impressed with was, if you're looking for a no-kidding true swim bait, bass style swim bait that they would use in like the California Delta, there's really 4 options. And I don't think you can go wrong with either of these options. And that was the Slayer Inc. This is the 6 inches, that SSTB, and that's the 6-inch. And this had tremendous wobble. I mean, huge wobble side to side, huge roll, but it wouldn't twist or anything like that. But when you killed the bait, there was really not as much action going down. The other style, true style, bass style swim baits that I think are really good and had really good promise here in the saltwater, especially targeting big fish, was the Optimum Baby Boom Boom. And so in terms of a true swim bait, this almost had as much action as the Young Money Minnow. This thing, from stem to stern, as you were slowly retrieving that bait, was just kicking. It was almost like a vibration of the actual bait itself. The problem is when you killed this bait with such a large boot tail, it would, no kidding, kind of like spiral and kind of torpedo down. And so in terms of like, if you need to kill the bait, anticipate that. So again, if you wanted to just cover water and look for those bites, just swimming a swim bait, then that's definitely something you should consider. All right, the last two, I'll save this one for last, but this is the Strike King. Similar to that of obviously your Kitechs, but it also had a lot of similar action. The crazy part about this one though is, as you did kill this bait, it had tremendous action actually coming down. And so on the twitch though, it wasn't a whole lot side to side. If you gave it like 2 or 3 twitches, what would happen is the bait would kind of just come up. It wouldn't dart side to side, or it wouldn't respond in any other way. It would just kind of come up and then it would come back down. But on a true swim, it had great action. And then last but not least was, this is the Berkeley Sickfish. This is the 4-inch though. They obviously make a much larger side. But as you can see, this bait's really it's really wide. And it's kind of got like these fins that act as almost a glide. In terms of like a true swim bait, just basically chuck and wind on a slow retrieve, this thing stayed probably the most true, and it gave a lot of tail action. The thing is it was just the tail that would move. The head of the bait, pretty much from about right here and kind of that last quarter of the bait, that's when you get the majority of the action. Everything else would almost stay static. Having said that, when you killed the bait, that's when it would almost kind of glide down, using those fins as kind of almost like landing gear, right? And so it had, if you killed that bait, it would still kind of give you some forward momentum, versus if you kill the bait, it would go straight down. So again, another great bait to add to the arsenal. Not a crazy large bait, but on the same token is it gives you just that little bit different size profile that can just target some bigger fish, and something that they may not have seen before in your estuary. And so I'll definitely be adding that one to the arsenal come this fall. So these are really intriguing to me. I really like these baits, or I like these videos, because I like seeing what's going on, and again, it helps me mentally in terms of confidence to know where that bait is in the actual column. And so as I'm fishing in the winter time, as I'm fishing certain estuaries with tide or wind or whatever, I at least have some basis of knowledge for these baits and what they're doing in a static, closed environment, right? So at least know what the action is capable of. And then as the conditions or the environment changes, I know that there's probably going to be some impact, but I know the basis of what that action is, what it can provide, and then ultimately having confidence in getting that big bite. So hopefully this was helpful. Please share it, like it. Definitely helps us out, obviously, and along those lines, we really enjoy doing those. So provide any comments or whatever as well, or what you would want to see next time. Obviously, we know this isn't an all-inclusive list, but we want to continue doing these. So until next time, guys, tight lines. God bless. Take what you need and release the rest. God bless.